So, Nephi had this wonderful vision. This is the Book of Mormon, Christmas. Okay, as is customary many times in many years, I like to read excerpts from my grandmother's diary. When I was growing up, I knew my grandmother, of course, and then from the age of about 6 or 8 till I was about 10 or 12, my two or three of us would go to Salt Lake. We lived up in Tremont at the time. We'd go to Salt Lake for 1 week out of every summer and spend that week with my grandma. And so I got to know her a little bit. She was pretty quiet, didn't say a lot. She was very frugal about food. One of the things that I noticed about her, and I've emphasized this with as many of you children, and poor Pam gets in on this too, about wasting food. Every time she put any food on her plate, no matter how much she put on her food, she ate every little bit. She never wasted a thing. Lesson to us all, not to waste food. So I learned from that, and now I know why. Because after I read her, and I had no idea as I was growing up with her, and she was getting out bottles of food and cooking hot dogs and had a nice meal in a nice warm house, what she had gone through in her life. I had no idea. Anyway, there's a few excerpts from her life story. It says, while we were having this rough struggle, they had just moved to a new place, a new farming community, and started farming. Mother never had any lard or shortening, as we used those days to fry the fish or the rabbit. So all the rabbit and fish had to be boiled. We got so tired of boiled rabbit and fish before Mother got an opportunity to get some shortening so she could fry some of her foods. At the time, they had moved to a new place. They didn't have any meat. So for about 6 months, they ate nothing but fish and jackrabbits. Not codtails, just fish and rabbits. And the only meat that they were able to eat was boiled fish and boiled jackrabbit for months. But we did have a few chickens, a very few. Mother had to take the eggs and the chickens away to the country store down about a mile away and put sugar with them. So we couldn't, and to weigh and get sugar with them. So we couldn't eat the eggs because that was the only cash or way she had of buying anything. Once in a while we would get an egg, but Mother would have to cook it. She would cook 1 egg for 2 children. She would fry it hard so the yolk wouldn't run, and then cut it in half. We only got half an egg, and that would be only maybe 2 days a week. So this is what kind of life my grandmother grew up in. When Christmas came, there was no money to buy gifts. With no money for a Christmas tree, no money for anything. Somehow or other, Father was able to get a couple of dollars. Mother sent back to Sears and Roebuck of the catalog for a couple of those red mesh net stockings that were filled with a lot of paper toys, such as a whistle, puzzles, little games, and we could play like dominoes. They were all just paper toys. Mother ordered 2 of them, and they came. She opened them up and divided those paper toys amongst her 10 children. The baby wasn't very big then. She didn't need much. We got up Christmas morning and found those gifts. Her 9 brothers and sisters and her. And got up Christmas morning and found those things with our name by them. We played with them, and were just as happy as if we had a better Christmas than was living in the city. And then there's a portion here that talked about her lunches that she had every day at school. And it says, Mother dried a lot of fruit, such as peaches and apples. Then when she was able to get a little sugar now and then, she would cook the dried apples and peaches and make what we call stewed fruit. Then for our lunch, we'd go to school. She'd cut a biscuit in half and spread some of this stewed fruit made from dried fruit. She put the biscuits in a lunch bucket, which was a lard bucket, a 5-pound lard bucket. when we went to school, she would put enough in there for 5 of us going to school. When noontime came, whoever had the lunch bucket had to watch it, of course. We'd all get together, 4 or 5 brothers and sisters. We'd all get together, divide the biscuits, and that was our lunch. And then we'd take the lard bucket back home after school, and Mother would do the same thing the next day. That was what we would have for lunch for many, many a day. Just a biscuit spread with some stewed rice. Okay. And then her father had a vision about 5 years before that. He got really sick with typhoid fever, and he was in the hospital, had really high fever, and during the time that he was sickest, he had his vision, and in his vision he was told that he was told many things. First of all, he's not acting in church. He had a word of wisdom problem, and he had this vision that he had 5 years to live. So after he got out of the hospital, he went home, gathered up all his pipes, his chewing tobacco, opened up the stove and threw them in. And my grandmother witnessed that. He said, and then sure as shooting, 5 years and 8 months after he got out of the hospital, he contracted typhoid fever again, and this time it took his life. And anyway, afterwards, after his death, my great-grandmother, your great-great-grandmother, was left with 10 children and pregnant. And so she talks about the first place that they went after her father's death. Now this place where we first lived was a little town called Dover. That town had been deserted because they had taken all the ground, bought it up for a dam, and they had built there, and the water was backing up into all of the farmlands of this little town, Dover. So everybody deserted it. There's where they put Mother to live with her family, all by herself, in a water-filled hole almost. At this time, Mother was pregnant with her 11th child. This child was born 7 months after my father's death. Anyway, they got Mother out of this old cold barn of a house and got her into a smaller place in a town called Fayette. That is where the last baby was born, my sister Frances. While we were living in that old big house, there was a man by the name of Hyde Dumgar. He realized Mother's condition. We were there at Christmas time. He came over there with a quarter of a beef. He knocked on the door Christmas morning. He had it carrying on his back over his shoulder like, and he brought it in and laid it on the kitchen table. We kids were all up and around and saw this. He said, "Sister Waite, this is a Christmas present for you and your family." We were so happy to get some fresh meat. Of course, it was one of his own that he had slaughtered himself, and he brought part of it over to Mother Ness. I think if it hadn't been for that man, we would have really been good and hungry.